He's a spokesman for some, but not a spokesman for all, as we saw from polls coming out last night. A Fox News poll found that 35% of New Hampshire Republican voters would not vote for him if he was the nominee in November. So when you hear that number, I know that's just New Hampshire, but how troubling is that for him?
Very. It's very troubling. Now, that might not be the case, but remember, the last election came down to about 5 or 6 states that were fairly close. Remember what Fani Willis and the others in Georgia brought him up on is election interference because he was trying to get something like 11,000 votes. I mean, not a large number. Uh, the problem isn't New Hampshire. The problem will be Pennsylvania, Michigan, where he's got a lot of opposition from Muslims. But I think, by the way, if you don't mind, I think that his problem in Michigan is not so much the Muslim, it's going to be auto workers because the auto industry is just being reamed by these electric vehicle mandates. The only automaker that's making any money on electric vehicles is Tesla. GM and Ford are losing fortunes, and this is a real problem for workers there. So I see a lot of problems there. Um, Biden, he could be weekend at Bernie's Biden and still win California and New York. But these close states are going to be a problem if Trump can't bring over all the Republican base. But his real problem is bringing over independents, especially educated, middle income, especially women. I think he'll have a problem. Biden, on the other hand, will have a problem with African Americans and especially with Hispanics. Cities like Chicago, there is a huge growing split between Hispanics and African Americans over immigration and what it's doing to the city because it's leading to a huge fight over resources between two groups that need those resources and are competing for jobs as well.
I'm curious on how you think Trump will win over those independent voters because his tone is the same as it was in 2016 as it was in 2020. I want to read you something he posted on Truth Social. I don't need any advice from Rhino Kayleigh McEnany on Fox. Just had a giant victory over a badly failing candidate, Bird Brain, and she's telling me what I can do better. Save your advice for Nikki. And as we know, Kayleigh McEnany was his very loyal former press secretary. So if he's disparaging her on social media, how does he bring people into the fold? How does he not alienate part of his party that is voting for Nikki Haley that wanted another Republican option?
He can't help himself, really. That's who he is. Uh, Everything is transactional. Um, you and I have friends, and we stick with them whether we agree or disagree on this or that issue. It takes a lot to break with them. Trump is not that way. If Tim Scott had not endorsed him, Tim Scott would be a bad guy. He would be subject to all these things. That has its upside, which is if you're Iran or you're Putin or you're Xi Jinping, you could be scared of this because he's just ruthless and he's willing to be ruthless and he can change on a dime. Um, but I think the right way to frame it is less how Trump is going to win them over as who these people hate the most. This is a negative election. This is going to be a negative election. So it's not going to be so much, except for the Republican base wants to vote for Trump. That's why there was really no path in the end for DeSantis. He tried to say, well, Trump is squishy on social issues. Wasn't DeSantis's best claim. I thought his best claim is we all agree on the among Republican conservatives on what we want, but Trump wasn't able to implement it. I will be able to. That I thought was his best claim. But even if he'd made that claim, once Republican voters thought that Trump could win, they were going to stick with him, win in the general election. And once they saw that he was still vigorous on the stump and so forth, they were going to stick with him. But I don't think there are any people like that in the Democratic Party. They will accept Biden, but they're not real Biden enthusiasts in the party. Remember last time? Um, remember last time he kept pointing out, and a lot of the people who thought he would win kept pointing out, there are no people at a Biden rally. What they didn't get, and there are huge numbers at Trump rallies, what they didn't get was that if there had been an anti-Trump rally, there would have been huge numbers. So I think the first thing is there's going to be a big anti-Trump vote, and there's going to be a big anti-Biden vote, and the winner will be the one who gets the most of the anti-votes.